Rent was a pathetic adventurer who lived a normal life until a dragon ate and turned him into a skeleton. Upon discovering he can level up infinitely, he becomes the strongest adventurer ever and rizzed up a freaky scientist who wants to experiment on him. On the day he turned, Rent ventures solo into a labyrinth to get treasures, but inside, he stumbles upon a hidden passage leading to an unexplored area. He gets excited, hoping that there are valuable treasures waiting to be found. But the moment he enters a giant, mysterious chamber, his excitement disappears as what he is facing is a living, breathing dragon. As the dragon lunges forward to devour him, every dream he ever had of reaching mithril class crumbles faster than Bonnie Blue's odds of entering heaven. But sometime later, Rent awakens, only to find that he's no longer human, but is now a skeleton. He considers returning to town, but knows he would be purified the moment he shows his clapped skeleton face, so with no other choice, he grabs his sword and begins making his way out of the dungeon. Along the way, another fellow skeleton pops up, and Rent rushes at it, determined to fight, but the weight of his sword pulls him down before he can strike properly. The skeleton attacks, but it slips and collapses. In that moment, Rent channels his spirit energy, finally mustering enough power to crush the skeleton with his blade. But then, the crushed skeleton glows and its energy moves into Rent's body, restoring the energy he had just spent defeating it. He recalls a conversation with his hot and busty friend Lorraine, who once explained that skeletons can evolve into ghouls through something called existential evolution. Rent realizes he can achieve that, so he makes it his mission to defeat every monster in the labyrinth and transform into a ghoul himself. For days, he hunts down skeletons and monsters, slowly getting stronger, while still determined to achieve mithril class adventure. Then, after defeating a slime, its energy flows into him, triggering a transformation in his body. Before he knows it, Rent becomes a ghoul. He gets excited, realizing his progress, and he vows to keep progressing, knowing that one day he can evolve into a higher being capable of blending in with humans. Now seeing that he has an actual mouth, he tries to speak, but instead sounds like a zombie missing chromosomes, so he starts practicing to speak properly. Later, while Rent continues slaying monsters, he hears sword noises near him. When he checks it out, he finds an adventurer he doesn't recognize and assumes that she is a rookie adventurer. He watches as she struggles against a skeleton and sees how both determined and clumsy her movements are. But then, she manages to defeat the creature, all the while Rent watches from a dark corner. For a moment, he almost steps forward to greet her, but the thought dies quickly when he remembers what he looks like now. So instead, he stays hidden, quietly observing her. Just then, he realizes she's stepping into a dangerous hall where another undead skeleton emerges, ambushing her. She struggles against it and gets cornered against a wall, but just as she's about to be clapped dead, Rent charges in, making a dramatic entrance. The skeleton abandons Reena and turns its fury toward him. But with a single powerful slash, Rent defeats it. With the danger secured, Rent approaches Reena to check if she's alright. But because he looks as ugly as you losers, the girls get terrified, so Rent lowers his weapon and speaks as clearly as he can to introduce himself as an adventurer who somehow became undead. Still a bit scared, the adventurer thanks him for saving her, but hesitantly asks if he plans to unalive her. He repeats that he doesn't and instead asks for her help to get some clothes so he can safely return to the city of Malt. She suggests getting him a robe to conceal his body, which Rent thinks is a great idea, so he hands her a few coins to buy it. Before leaving, the rookie adventurer introduces herself as Reena and promises to repay the debt she owes him. She exits the dungeon cautiously, leaving Rent alone once again. A few hours later, to Rent's surprise, Reena actually comes back. She presents him with a cloak that's both plain and practical, something no one would look at twice, and Rent sees as perfect for him. He's genuinely pleased, thanking her as she cheerfully hands him gloves and boots as well. After putting everything on, Rent admires how easy it is to move in his new gear and even acknowledges that he looks cool. But when he catches his reflection, his cool face is still exposed, ruining his drip. Hearing that, Reena quickly pulls out a dope-looking mask she bought from the market. The moment he presses it against his face, the mask fuses to his skin as if magnetized. That surprised him, and when Rent tries to pull it off, it won't budge. Reena explains that she bought it at an unusually cheap price at the market, and now they see that the reason why is that it is cursed. Rent tries using his divinity to get it off, but it only drains his power, so he now needs a priest to get it off him. Seeing that, Reena apologizes profusely for bringing him a cursed item, but Rent reassures her that it's fine, as he needed it to cover his face in the first place. Then, in a surprising moment of courage, Reena takes his hand. She admits she's not afraid of him anymore because she can tell he's not a bad person, but Rent notices her trembling and gently tells her she doesn't have to force herself, as she'll get used to him in time. Together, they make their way back to Malt, and as they're about to enter the gate, Rent warns her that if they find her helping a monster like him enter the city, she will be stripped of her adventure, but she tells him that, after how he saved her, she's willing to take the risk. Then at the gates, as they're about to enter, the guards let Reena in but stop Rent for looking suspicious. Thinking fast, Reena tells the guards that Rent looks chopped and has a skin disease after he got into a bonny blue line filled with neckbeards who never showered. Hearing that, they let Rent into the city of Malt. Once inside, Reena asks what Rent is planning to do next, but before she finishes, Rent has already disappeared. From a high vantage point, he watches her search for him, thanking her for her kindness and silently deciding to meet her again when he's more human-looking. That night, Rent visits the old busty Lorraine's home. He finds her dozing peacefully on the sofa and wakes her. When she opens her eyes, he reveals his ghoul form to her. Lorraine stares in shock before asking what on earth happened to him. Then, Rent tells her everything that happened, and Lorraine listens in stunned silence. Despite all her years of studying monsters and magic, she admits she's never heard of anyone who got eaten by a dragon and turned into an undead afterward. Curious, she asks whether the dragon is still in the dungeon, and Rent replies that it's already gone. Rent is impressed at how calm and composed Lorraine is despite how he looks and the absurd story he just told her. Then she asks if he still considers himself the same Rent now that he's a ghoul. Rent pauses at her question, lost in thought, and says that he doesn't really know. Lorraine smiles faintly, saying that's exactly the kind of vague answer the old Rent would have given. She decides to set that question aside for now and instead asks what he plans to do next. Rent declares that he intends to keep working as an adventurer to achieve his dream of becoming a mithril-class adventurer, but he admits he can't go back to the guild looking like your ugly ex's uglier new boyfriend. Hearing that, Lorraine offers to accept job requests for him and orders him to stay at her place, considering hotels and inns would kick his ugly face out. However, she adds one condition for her to help him, which is for Rent to help her with her research, considering that in history, no scholar has ever had the opportunity to study a monster capable of existential evolution firsthand. Rent looks at her with suspicion and asks if she's planning to shove things inside him for her research, and without missing a beat, she says she'll only take small samples of flesh from time to time. The next day, Lorraine returns from a trip to the guild and gives Rent a pouch of money, which is the payment for the slime fluids and monster materials he collected. He's shocked at how much it is, and she explains that his materials are exceptionally high quality, perfect for making beauty potions, and she's paying him directly to cut out the guild's commission fee. With the money in hand, Rent heads to the blacksmith's shop, the three-pronged spear, and on his way there, people look at him and are creeped out by his looks. Inside the blacksmith, the receptionist reacts the same way, but when Rent starts speaking and apologizes for his appearance, that calms down the receptionist. Rent then hands his battered sword to the receptionist, explaining that he needs a replacement. She examines the weapon and notes how badly it's damaged. She can see that the user uses magic and spirit energy on the sword, but when Rent says that he also uses divinity, her eyes widen, saying that he's only the second person she's ever known to wield all three power sources. He asks her to keep that a secret, and she promises that she will. She then adds that the blacksmith, a man named Cloak, will need several days to reforge the weapon. She adds that Cloak will likely want to talk to him during the process. Rent agrees, but tells her to contact Lorraine if she ever needs to reach him, and hearing that name, the receptionist is in awe of who Rent has as friends. Meanwhile, back home, Lorraine dives deep into her research. She reads about the ghouls, who are lesser undead creatures with incredible physical resilience, even capable of surviving decapitation. She tries to find what Rent is experiencing, but the only thing she reads is that there are powerful monsters who can turn humans into ghouls, but in the process, the humans are stripped of their personalities and emotions. Reading this, Lorraine realizes Rent is unique as a ghoul that is different from any ghouls in recorded history, but he still isn't sure if the being before her is truly the same Rent she once knew. She remembers the first time she met him, and back then, Rent was still a rookie assigned to accompany her on a quest for her research. At the time, she viewed the world as dull and predictable, even though she was the youngest ever to achieve the title of the Great Doctor, which allowed her to register as a silver-class adventurer. When she traveled to find the rare herbs she was looking for, she was surprised to see that Rent was more capable than she was at handling the herbs. But just as she marveled at his skill, a goblin attacked. Rent immediately shielded her and calmly instructed her to use a fire spell, which she did, roasting the goblin to a crisp, making Goblin Slayer proud. After calming down, Rent pointed out that, despite being a silver-class adventurer, Lorraine doesn't seem very experienced in battle, and he confessed that the reason he was tasked to protect her was because everyone was worried about her safety. Seeing that Rent was reliable and even knew about herbs, Lorraine asked him, "An adventurer lower than her? to teach her what he knew, and that became the start of their relationship. Meanwhile, Rent meets the blacksmith Cloak, who assures him that his sword will be reforged into something extraordinary. The receptionist lends Rent a temporary sword, one that Rent can use alongside magic and spirit energy. Cloak then offers a handshake, and while Rent hesitates at first, he shakes the man's hand and walks away. But as he leaves, Cloak quietly tells his assistant that he knows that Rent is cursed, and he fully understands why Rent refused to keep it a secret, not wanting to cause other trouble. So both Cloak and the receptionist can only wish him luck and hope for the best for him. Later, during dinner, Lorraine tells Rent that he's fundamentally different from ordinary ghouls, likely due to his ability to evolve. She asks what he thinks he'll become next, and he admits that he doesn't know, but says his goal is to evolve as close to being human as possible. Lorraine smirks and suggests he return to the dungeon to slay more monsters. Afterward, Rent is back in the dungeon, and he spots a goofy-looking adventurer moments away dying from a slime. He intervenes and destroys the creature in one swift move. The adventurer thanks Rent for the help, and while Rent notices the cut on his arm, he leaves the adventurer behind, worried that he might be a scammer who is looking to rob him. But as Rent is walking away, the man is begging Rent to form a party with him. He explains how he was a restaurant owner who was forced to be an adventurer to pay off his debts, and hearing that, Rent changes his mind and allows the man to carry his backpack instead. The rookie celebrates as if he's just won the lottery and eagerly follows Rent deeper into the dungeon, but Rent feels worried when he sees the man's injury. Then, Rent leads them to the paw where he fought the dragon, and once inside, the adventurer is in awe to see such a place exists. He then discovers a hidden passage there, and he suggests that they report to the guild to get profits. However, Rent tells the man that he should do it himself to get his profit, as Rent doesn't care about the glory. They enter the secret passage to find treasures but step into an empty room. While the man happily enters, Rent sees a magic circle inside and realizes that only he can see that. In an instant, the rookie disappears, and Rent recognizes the circle as a teleportation circle that would probably send people off to a lower floor with tougher monsters. Rent initially thinks of just leaving him behind, but when his morals tell him otherwise, Rent steps on the circle and gets teleported as well. When he pops up on the next floor, he sees the rookie unconscious on the floor, and right beside him stands a giant skeleton. And in that moment, Rent realizes that he's in a boss room, and he's screwed up. While reinforcing his body with magic, Rent strikes at the monster's leg, yet his attack barely scratches the bone. The creature retaliates with a thunderous punch, forcing Rent to dodge again, and he realizes that his spiritual energy has no effect at all. He notices that the dungeon doors have sealed shut, and he's trapped in this Elden Ring boss fight unless he defeats the boss. For a moment, Rent feels fear in his soul, but remembering his goal to become a mithril-class adventurer, he decides to lock in. He pours his divine energy into his sword, and he unleashes a slash, cutting down the monster's legs, sending it crashing onto the floor. In that moment, Rent sprints up its massive form and brings his sword down with a final explosive swing that shatters the monster's skull. When the dust settles, he kneels beside the unconscious adventurer he saved earlier and uses divine energy to heal his wounds. When the man wakes up, he's shocked to see the giant skeleton defeated. He asks if Rent was the one who defeated the giant skeleton, and Rent confirms it and shows him the enormous magic stone he earned as proof. Rent then offers the man the valuable magic stone in his hand, in exchange for the man helping him handle errands in town, like visiting shops in the guild. The man insists that's too one-sided, so Rent adds another condition that he gets to eat for free at the man's restaurant whenever he wants. Hearing that, the man starts tearing up and agrees, swearing that he'll never let his restaurant go bankrupt again. Rent hands over the crystal and sends him home through the teleportation circle. He then notices another teleportation circle nearby and considers exploring it, but decides to leave it for later and return home instead. After Rent gets out, the man brings Rent to his restaurant, the Red Dragon Tavern. Just then, the man's wife Isabel pops up, and the man proudly tells her how Rent saved his life and displays the giant magic stone he got from Rent. The couple hug, and the man introduces himself as Loris, and Rent makes him promise to keep his identity a secret before introducing himself in turn. On his walk home, a wave of darkness suddenly clouds Rent's mind. He feels an irrational frustration bubbling inside, where a part of him almost wishes Loris had been a lying scumbag. The feeling intensifies when he steps into Lorraine's house. She greets him warmly for coming home, but Rent suddenly hugs her, which makes her flustered. She wonders if he's either drunk or feeling freaky with his glizzy, but suddenly, he bares sharp teeth and sinks them into her shoulder like a vampire. Blood sprays across the room as she shoves him off, shouting his name and demanding to know if he's still himself. Rent's eyes flash wildly before his pupils return to normal for a second, and Lorraine realizes he's regained control. She quickly casts a divine sleep spell and Rent collapses to the floor. Hours later, Rent wakes up to find Lorraine watching over him, and she calmly asks if he felt something else controlling him. He nods, saying he's himself again and apologizing for what happened. When she asks what he remembers, he admits he recalls attacking her, and confesses that both she and Loris looked disturbingly appetizing to him at the time, like they're pieces of steaks, which made him go crazy. However, Lorraine says that she fully expected this, knowing that Ghoul craves human flesh. She then tells him to rest up, knowing that her spell must have damaged him, but Rent knows she's hiding something, so he asks her to show him the wound he caused her. Lorraine shows it to him, revealing a horrible chunk has been bitten off, and feeling responsible for it. Rent insists on healing her himself using divine energy. As his power mends the wound, she's amazed that he can now use divinity that well, which heals her throughout. When he finishes healing her, Lorraine notices something different about him. She realizes that his skin looks more human than before, and the cursed mask on his face has changed shape. Rent doesn't like how his new look leaves his crusty-looking mouth exposed, but in that moment, the mask shifts again, covering the lower half of his face. Lorraine observes this and concludes that the mask must respond to his thoughts and desires. Testing her theory, Rent thinks about how he's scared to get a glizzy in his mouth, and the magical mask returns back into its previous form. But when they try removing it altogether, nothing works. Then, Lorraine points out that his speaking sounds clearer, and Rent guesses that it's because he evolved after slaying the giant skeleton. But it makes no sense to him, considering that he previously evolved directly after defeating a monster. After thinking, Lorraine suggests that it might be because he fed on her blood, which evolved him from a ghoul to a creature called a ghast, who are usually weaker servants of vampires, but have similar traits. Lorraine explains that monsters undergoing existential evolution usually become stronger, more refined forms of their previous selves. She asks him why he thinks he transformed from a skeleton into a ghoul. Rent can't answer, so she answers for him, saying that his transformations reflect his deepest wish, which is to become a human. Rent asks why he hasn't evolved straight into a vampire if that's the most human-looking form. Lorraine believes that just like how he has to slowly reach higher ranks as an adventurer, he has to advance to different stages before becoming a vampire. This gives Rent hope, realizing that if he continues to evolve, he might eventually reach the level of a vampire or even return to being human. Lorraine adds that there must be a special condition for that transformation, just like how consuming her blood triggered his previous evolution. She promises to help him, but in trade, she demands that they do wild experiments where she goes through his every crack and crevice from top to bottom to see his changes. The next morning, Rent trains and feels himself stronger, but as he wields his sword, he realizes that it's busted. He goes to Cloak to return the borrowed weapon, and the man is not impressed that his sword is now completely broken. He asks what happened, and when Rent explains that he had to charge it with divinity to go against a giant skeleton, Cloak becomes more understanding. Rent then reveals that he fought the giant skeleton in an unexplored area, and hearing that, Cloak agrees to lend him a new sword, curious of where it would take him. Back at Lorraine's house, she uses some rare materials to create a deadly poison for Rent to try, one that is capable of terminating even a red grizzly or even Mark Henry. But when Rent drinks the whole vial, he doesn't feel anything apart from it, tasting like unwashed donkey cheeks. And this leads Lorraine to conclude that poisons don't affect him at all, even though healing potions and herbs still do. She then asks him more questions, and Rent admits that as a ghast, he doesn't feel the need to sleep. And when she asks about his appetite, he confesses that he feels a weak hunger for human blood and flesh. Hearing that, Lorraine hands him another vial, which he assumes is another poison, but when he opens it, he freezes in shock to find that it's blood. Lorraine explains that it's her own blood, preserved to last longer with a spell, which she prepares for Rent to consume occasionally to stop himself from going berserk like before. Rent sips a single drop of the blood, and he's surprised by how delicious it tastes and is pleased when the desire and hunger for humans inside him disappear. When Lorraine asks if that's all he needs, he assures her that one drop is enough and promises to make it last. Then, Rent tells Lorraine that he is planning to visit the guild and pick up a job before heading back into the labyrinth to evolve some more. Lorraine reminds him that he'll need to show his adventurer identification to get a job, and warns him that if anyone at the guild sees his monstrous appearance, it'll cause chaos. Rent dismisses her worries, saying no one cares about a bum, low-ranked bronze adventurer anyway. But Lorraine argues otherwise, pointing out that despite his low status, everyone at the guild admired him for helping beginners and taking on unpopular jobs. She even reveals that the guild had been considering recruiting him as a staff member. Rent insists that he has no plans to retire or work for the guild, as he just wants to keep taking quests himself to grow stronger. Lorraine agrees, but says his sudden return from the dead will definitely cause trouble. So, she suggests he register under a new identity. Rent reminds her that it is against the guild rules to register twice, but Lorraine brushes him off, assuring him that no one would ever find out, and if they do, they won't have any issues, knowing that Rent is known to be a good adventurer. So later, Rent walks into the guild hall in his cover, and when he sees the receptionist, Sheila, he feels happy and nostalgic. He then approaches her and says that he wants to register as a new adventurer. Sheila hands him a form, and as he fills it out, he recalls his first time doing this, and how clueless he was back then, but his goal, even back then, stayed the same. Then, when Rent returns the completed form, Sheila is surprised that he put in the name Rent Vivier, and she mentions that she knows another Rent, who vanished recently. Rent pretends to be surprised and asks about that person, keeping up the act by saying he heard about him from Lorraine, who is his relative and he has been staying with lately. Then, after the paperwork is done, Sheila gives him his new adventurer's badge and congratulates him on becoming an Iron-class adventurer. Later, Rent returns to the labyrinth and spots two rookie adventurers fighting a goblin. Knowing that adventurers are all around the place, he quickly moves on to search for the unexplored section he left behind earlier. He steps onto a magic circle that teleports him to a secluded chamber, filled with the remains of a person who once lived there. As he investigates the room, a voice calls out to him from behind, demanding to know what he's doing. When he turns around, he finds a woman armed with a sword and instantly knows that she is dangerous. Rent quickly explains that he's just an adventurer searching for something, but she doesn't believe him and calls him a thief. She declares that this place must not be disturbed and blasts him with a massive magic spell that slams him into the wall and tears his cloak apart. When he gets back up, she notices his ghastly form, changes her tune, and apologizes for her mistake. To make up for it, she gives him her own cloak to replace the one she destroyed and warns him not to tell the guild about this place or let anyone enter without her. And to stop him from coming home empty-handed, she gives him a special artifact, the Acacia map, which automatically records any area the owner explores. Then, before he says anything, she teleports him out of the dungeon using a space warping spell. Rent then tells Lorraine everything and asks her if the gifts he got are cursed. She assures him that they are not, and suggests that he tries them out. Firstly, he channels magic into the map, and it projects a detailed layout of the labyrinth, even showing the two rookies from earlier. Lorraine is extremely in awe of this artifact and asks him to try mapping another dungeon. When he does, the map displays another labyrinth he visited, and it has the outline while still being blank in areas Rent hasn't visited. He then asks about the cloak, and Lorraine informs him that the cloak is way superior to what he was wearing before in terms of drip and attributes. But what interests Lorraine more is the woman he met, and from what Rent saw, he guesses that the woman's magic level was at least gold tier, which only heightens Lorraine's curiosity about that secret chamber. The next day, Rent revisits the labyrinth so he can get to the hidden chamber, but when he tries to go there, he finds a dead end where the entrance once was, and he realizes that the woman doesn't want him back yet. Back in the guild, Sheila is still wondering and worried about where the Rent she knew is gone, but in that moment, Rent approaches Sheila to request a new quest involving slaying 3 orcs. She warns him that an Iron-class adventurer is below this quest, but Rent assures her that he got plot armor on his side. So Sheila chooses to give him the quest. Just hours later, Rent returns to Sheila, who is shocked to see that Rent has defeated the 3 orcs. To prove it, he presents 3 massive bacon chunks from the orcs, and Sheila can't believe how the meat is expertly handled, which she knows their clients will be happy with. She then asks him to wait while she fetches something, and while waiting, Rent can hear a few nearby adventurers whispering gossip about him having the strength of guts and the swag of a Joido character, and Rent realizes that he might have stood out too much. Just then, Sheila returns, and she explains that she just spoke to her manager, and that Rent has been invited to take a promotion exam, one that could progress him to bronze class if he passes. She admits that it's rare for anyone to take the test so soon after registering, but the guild believes that Rent has the potential to reach higher. Not wanting to miss this chance, Rent accepts the promotion offer. Later, when he tells Lorraine about it, she immediately asks what name he used during registration. When he tells her that he is now Rent Vivier, Lorraine gets shocked and demands to know why he used her family name. Rent explains that pretending to be her relative seemed like the safest cover, and he didn't want anyone to think that Lorraine had her own personal clapping machine who lives with her. Lorraine insists that she doesn't care what others think of her, considering that everyone just sees her as a poor scholar who couldn't make it in the capital. But Rent insists that he doesn't want to cause her trouble, not after everything she's done for him. He reminds her that the reason he is still alive and human is because of her, and hearing that, she suggests that he stay with her longer as her help, and he agrees to it. The next morning, Rent arrives at the guild hall for his bronze class examination. Sheila looks surprised to see him here, considering that he just got the invitation yesterday and he could just attend the next test. But Rent explains that he doesn't have time to wait months for the next one, as he wants to take the test now. Then, the examiner starts things off with a written knowledge test, explaining that it will cover guild rules and proper handling of monster materials. Rent recalls that the practical portion changes every year, where last time it involved gathering herbs, and this year he suspects something far tougher. As the group follows the examiner into the hall, Rent notices one of the rookies, Laura, sitting among the examinees, and he realizes that it must mean that her rookie partner, Rise, must be taking the oral test, considering he can't write, and that in this city, few people can even read or write. However, Rent already went through this once before, so he finds the written exam easy, considering it's just his aniplot. When the exam ends, several participants complain about how difficult it was, while Rent, on the other hand, is being congratulated by Sheila for getting a perfect score. He then asks what the practical test, and Sheila explains that they will be grouped into small parties and must complete a real guild quest. She puts him into a party with Rise and Laura, and the examiner reveals that the practical test will take place in the labyrinth of the new moon, and their mission is to reach a marked destination on a map provided to each team. He also mentions that every team is heading for the same point, and the first one to arrive will receive a special reward. Then, once everyone reaches the labyrinth entrance, the others rush in, while Rent stays calm and suggests buying a proper map. Rise asks why, and Rent reveals that the map given to them for the exam is 15 years old. So they approach a sus-looking seller who tries to charge them 2 silvers for a full map. But Rent negotiates for a first-floor-only version at a cheaper price. Then they compare the 2 maps, and to their surprise, discover that the newer one is more detailed with the location of traps and even updated paths that are safer. Rise and Laura wonder why the guild provided them with a bad map, and Rent explains that this is part of the test, which is to see how resourceful they are under real adventuring conditions. Then, as they go deeper into the labyrinth, they reach a corridor full of skeletons. Rise and Laura work together to defeat most of them, and Rent is amazed to see how in tune the 2 of them are despite being rookies. Laura notices that it's unusual for this many monsters to be here, and Rent spots an incense on the floor. When the rookie asks what it's used for, he explains that it was used to lure monsters into the area. Rent warns the 2 that they are dealing with humans, and there is probably an ambush ahead of them. So Rent takes the lead, and as he guessed, another adventurer attacks him, and they clash blades. Rise demands that he take the lead, so Rent leaves the swordsman to him, while he goes to take care of the archer and the magic user. When he looks back, he watches as Rise and Laura work together against the swordsman, and they manage to defeat him. Then, once the enemies are tied up, Rise asks why they would do this, and Rent scolds him, reminding him that monsters aren't the only danger in a labyrinth. Seeing how much more experienced Rent is, Rise promises to follow his lead from now on. As they move forward, Rent whispers to himself to free the hostage, and moments later, a mysterious cloaked figure emerges behind them, freeing the captured hooligans, and is shocked that Rent knows that he was there. Meanwhile, Sheila meets with the guildmaster, who tells her that he's suspicious of Rent's true identity, so she orders her to report anything unusual about him. Back in the labyrinth, Rent's group finally arrives at a massive door, which Rent says is the entrance to the boss room. Rent notices that Rise is scared, and while Rise tries to act hard, Rent tells him that to escape a fight he can't win is sometimes the right thing to do. Just then, another group of adventurers shows up, and it starts an argument between the 2 parties. The scumbags try to intimidate Laura, offering her a creamy good time, but Rise stands in front of her, and Rent threatens to chop their heads off. However, Rent lets them go in first, and Rise is angry at that decision, but minutes later, they all come running back, being horribly injured and terrified. Rent reminds Rise what he just said about a battle he can't win, but Rise insists on fighting, saying that he refuses to give up on his dream of becoming an adventurer. Hearing that, Rent is reminded of his own motivation, and they enter the room. Inside, they come face to face with a massive slime creature known as a Grand Slime. When the Rookies declare their determination to defeat it, Rent can't help but feel surprised, as they could just escaped since the exam doesn't actually require them to face the boss. Rise charges straight in, and Rent calls out for him to strike the core. He dashes past several acid blasts and drives his sword deep into the slime's body, but the attack has no effect. The Grand Slime launches Rise into the ground and hurls another barrage of acid, which he barely manages to avoid. Rent tells Laura to focus on empowering her magic, confident that the dude has what it takes to bring the monster down. Minutes ago, before they entered the dungeon, Rent had explained that slimes are best defeated using magic. He'd asked Laura if she knew any large-scale fire spells, and she said she did, but it would take time to prepare. Rent had offered to protect her while she cast the spell, but Rise had insisted on taking that role himself. Now, in the middle of the fight, he's barely staying alive, desperately evading the Grand Slime's ferocious attacks. Desperate, Laura calls for Rent's help, and he rushes in, slashing through the creature's acidic blasts alongside Rise until she announces her spell is ready. The two of them leap out of range as Laura unleashes an enormous flame attack that engulfs the entire monster. Rent quickly urges Rise to destroy the core before the creature regenerates, and Rise dashes in and shatters it. They all cheer, celebrating their victory over the boss. As they collect the slime fluid, Rent explains that the material will sell for a fortune, considering it's perfect to use for gooning to make pickles slippery.
Bruh.
Just then, a few adventurers go past them, only to get knocked out by a sleeping gas trap. While Rise is confused, Rent explains that reaching the goal first doesn't automatically mean passing the exam, and Laura adds that the whole setup was meant to trick them into thinking it was a race when it wasn't. Rent then explains that a true adventurer's job is to complete missions within the time limit, and the reason they weren't told beforehand was because real adventurers should already understand that principle. Then, they reach the goal, where a man congratulates them for arriving first. He then hands them 3 bronze chips, explaining that showing them at the front desk will confirm their promotion to bronze-class adventurers. When Rise asks about the promised prizes, the man gives them each special potions, saying it's a reward for the first 3 teams to arrive. After collecting their rewards, Rent tells the others he wants to make a brief stop before heading back. He leads them to the 2nd floor, where a place resembles a forest, and he teaches them that a dungeon is always unpredictable, and this is the kind of world they are going to explore as adventurers. Amazed by it, Rise asks to explore a little longer, but Rent immediately refuses. Later, they return to the guild hall and hand their bronze chips to Sheila. Before she promotes them, she receives a report from a mysterious man, and he explains that he's been observing their performance the entire time, not only to test their skills but also to assess their character to see if they are worthy to be promoted. After reading the report, Sheila announces that they've officially been promoted. Rise and Laura celebrate while Rent stands quiet, seeing that he is once again a bronze adventurer. Then, as the rookies are about to leave, they thank Rent for the help, and while they want to continue adventuring with him, they understand that he works solo, so they promise to always cherish him as an ally before leaving. Sheila then turns to Rent, saying she needs to ask him something important. Realizing she may have discovered his secret, Rent decides to leave the guild for good before he can go. Sheila stops him and asks what truly happened to him. To talk privately, they move to a closed-off room, where Rent admits that he's dealing with something so serious that he doesn't want anyone, not even the guild, getting involved in. Sheila reveals that she hasn't reported him, explaining that she wants to uncover the truth for herself. She also confesses that the man who observed the exam is her brother, someone she trusts completely to keep Rent's secret. Then she produces a magical contract stating that if she ever reveals his identity, she'll suffer a severe magical punishment and be banished to a land where Diddy rules everything.
What?
Rent questions why she would go that far, and Sheila explains that she wants to help him, just as he once helped her grow as a person. Moved by her kindness, Rent agrees and signs the contract. Then, to make her understand, he shows her his now chopped face, which scares her like he has just seen a monster. Rent calmly tells her that he's an undead, but insists he means no harm to anyone. As he turns to leave, she stops him, saying she believes him to be a good person, and promises to help him however she can. Later, Rent brings her to meet Lorraine, and when Sheila reveals everything Rent told her, Lorraine threatens to make her watch Boku no Pico to ensure she keeps her mouth shut, but Sheila assures her she has promised to keep it a secret. Then, they have dinner together, and Sheila reveals that lately, rookie adventurers have been missing, and the guild suspects Rent to be the culprit. Hearing that, Rent and Lorraine think it's a good idea for Rent to avoid labyrinths for a few days. The next morning, Rise and Laura check the quest board for new jobs, while Sheila meets with the guild master. They discussed about Rent, and Sheila vouches for him, saying that he is an amazing adventurer. Some days later, even though the kidnapping is still happening, Rent heads out toward the labyrinth, while Lorraine, who is just waking up, worries about him going so soon. In the city, Rent meets up with Cloak, who hands Rent his new sword, crafted exactly to his liking, capable of channeling magical power, spiritual energy, and even divinity. Cloak asks Rent to try out the sword to see its capabilities, and firstly, Rent infuses it with pure magic energy and swings, destroying a wooden target, but Cloak notices just how much stronger Rent is compared to before. Then, Rent amplifies the blade with spiritual energy, slicing another target clean apart. And lastly, Rent channels his divinity into the blade and cuts a final wooden dummy straight in two. As Rent admires the result, Cloak notices something strange, that the sliced target begins sprouting small green leaves. They both realize it's the after effect of the divine energy. Out of curiosity, Cloak asks Rent how he, an undead ghast, is able to use divinity, which is usually given to adventurers by gods. Rent explains that he once repaired an abandoned shrine, even when he had no idea who or what deity it belonged to, which he assumed gave him his divinity. Intrigued, Cloak asks to keep the divine-infused wood samples, and Rent agrees before requesting to keep training. Cloak asks Rent what more he needs to try out, as Rent has already shown mastery over all 3 energy types. Rent calmly replies that he wants to try combining them. Cloak then sets up a much larger log and explains a technique known as mana-spirit fusion, a skill that merges magic and spirit energy for a tremendous power boost. However, he warns Rent that failing at it could cause Rent's body to explode and turn him into a slushy. However, Rent insists on attempting it. But before Rent do his experiments, Cloak gives him an older sword as a precaution, just in case he fails, not wanting the new sword to break. Then, Rent focuses, channeling magic and spirit energy together, turning his aura into levels above everything he's done before, and with one single strike, he vaporizes the massive log completely. Seeing this power, Cloak asks if he seriously plans to add divine energy next, and Rent says that he will. Then, Rent channels all 3 powers at once, entering a level higher than the one before, pushing his body to its limits as cracks form across the blade. Before it shatters entirely, Rent swings, transforming the log into a perfectly round wooden sphere. When the energy fades, the sword disintegrates into powder, and Rent apologizes, but Cloak explains that normal weapons can't withstand divinity, as it disrupts the magical bonds that hold them together. He reassures Rent that the new sword can handle divinity, though not all 3 powers simultaneously, so mana-spirit fusion is likely its limit. Later, Rent walks through town and notices an adventurer yelling at a boy in the street, refusing a job offer and threatening to slice him up. Rent steps in, handing the man a coin to make him back off, and asks the boy about his request. The boy pleads for Rent to defeat the creature known as the Lord of the Lake. Then, Rent brings the boy, who introduces himself as Riuntus, to Lorraine's place, where Riuntus tells him his story. He talks about his village, Tatsu, which has long upheld a legend about the Lord of the Lake, a being once appeased by offering a girl filled with mana. Every year, they hold a festival to honor that tale, but this time, the creature appeared and devoured the girl playing the role of sacrifice. The Lord then demanded more sacrifices, and after countless women falling victim, Riuntus now begs Rent to save his sister, who is the next sacrifice. Later, while heading to the village, Rent senses that something is fishy. When they arrive, Riuntus shows him that their once lively village is now quiet in fear of the creature. When they get to Riuntus' place, Rent notices an X carved on his door, and Riuntus explains that it's a sign that the family has to sacrifice their daughter to the Lord of the Lake. He explains that the one who left it was a Kelpie, and Rent recognizes the creature as a powerful one. Just then, Riuntus' sister, Amiris, storms out and scolds her brother for bringing a Zeus-looking adventurer to their house. Riuntus explains to her what Rent is here for, but she insists that Rent leave and declares that she'll accept her fate to protect the village. Rent calmly states that only Riuntus can cancel the contract, since he's the one who hired him. Reluctantly, Amiris invites Rent inside, confessing that she's ready to fulfill her role as the sacrifice. At night, Rent asks Riuntus if he's sure that he wants to continue, despite his sister's objection, and Riuntus assures Rent that he wants to save his sister. The following morning, Rent meets a merchant in town to get some information, and the merchant tells Rent that this year's festival looks to be quieter due to what's happening with the sacrifices. He suggests that Rent go home, considering the festival will suck, and that the Lord of the Lake is enraged. That night, before being sacrificed, the villagers are tearfully preparing Amiris for the ritual, and they tell her how Riuntus wanted to cancel the festival to save her. Hearing that, Amiris tears up, but still insists on sacrificing herself to save the village from the creature's wrath. Some moments later, Rent visits her room, and she tells him to go home, but Rent tells her that he and her brother will save her, even if she doesn't want to be saved. Then, when the festival begins, hooded priests chant incantations as Amiris boards a small boat to the lake. Rent and Riuntus are with her to confront the Lord of the Lake, and the moment they reach the center, mists appear and the Lord emerges. But seeing that it's a kraken, who Rent knows live in the ocean, Rent knows something fishy is going on. He jumps and walks on the water, attacks the kraken, and sees what it truly is, a fake illusion. Behind it is a boat full of the merchants he met earlier, who are pissed that Rent exposed them. But Rent wastes no time throwing hands, and he easily defeats the merchants. Hours later, they tell the villagers everything, and they demand answers from the merchants. They reveal that the sacrificed girls are still alive, hidden away in the other side of the lake. Hearing that, the villagers hurry to rescue them. Meanwhile, the next morning, Rent says farewell to Riantis, but wanting to show her gratitude, Amiris gives him a quick kiss on the chin, which Rent accepts. Then, when Rent returns home, he tells Lorraine everything that happened, and she teases him for rizzing up a chick and leaving her dry. A few days later, Rent stands before the guild's quest board, and he sees one job in particular catching his attention, which is a request that only offers a single bronze piece as payment. Just then, Sheila pops up, and when Rent asks about the bronze quest, Sheila explains that despite its low payment, the quest is far tougher than it looks, and most adventurers avoid it because it involves retrieving a dragon blood flower, a rare plant that only blooms near poisonous swamps. Rent remembers the legend behind it, where a dragon fell in love and clapped a human woman, and where the dragon's blood spilled on his death. The flowers grew into the dragon blood flowers. Sheila adds that it's said that girls who receive that flower are destined to be loved forever, but she reveals that this request isn't about romance, but that the flower is urgently needed by children from an orphanage who hope to create medicine to save someone dear to them. Hearing that, Rent immediately accepts the mission. Later, when Rent arrives at the orphanage, he tries knocking on the door but ends up breaking the door knocker with his unnatural strength. Feeling guilty, he repairs it using some slime fluid and knocks again more gently. Then, a lovely young woman answers, and thinking he's a debt collector, she tells Rent that he'll have to return later since the headmistress, Lillian, isn't around. When Rent explains that he's the adventurer who accepted their quest, she relaxes and invites him inside. Once he steps in, the girl tells the orphans that they have an adventurer as a guest, and they all rush up to him, bombarding him with questions about adventuring. The woman quickly hushes them, reminding them that adventurers can be scary, but she quickly apologizes for offending Rent. But he brushes it off and even tells the orphans to stay cautious around sus-looking people, especially ones who like to oil up. After the orphans run off, Rent introduces himself as a bronze-class adventurer, shocking her, as she expected someone lower ranked. When he asks if she made the request, she nods and introduces herself as Elise. Rent mentions that dragon blood flowers are notoriously rare, and asks why she needs one so badly. Elise hesitates but eventually tells him to keep a secret before taking him to a small room where Lillian is resting while being sick. Lillian greets him politely, introducing herself as the priestess of the Eastern Sky Church. She thanks him for accepting such a poorly paid mission, explaining that monsters have started appearing in the orphanage's basement, and she can't let the orphans face them. Before she can say more, she starts coughing, and Elise urges her to rest and tells Rent she'll explain everything. Outside, Elise reveals that Lillian suffers from a disease where corrupted energy accumulates every time Lillian uses her divine energy, which happens because Lillian is not strong enough. She says that the only known cures are the blood of a holy maiden or a potion made from dragon blood flowers. Rent asks if Lillian knows what she's suffering from, and Elise says that she doesn't, because if she found out, she'd resign and let another priestess take her place, abandoning the orphanage. Moved by their cause, Rent vows to find the flower, and Elise is stunned, saying she never expected anyone to accept such a dangerous mission. When she asks if he's sure, he assures her he'll get it no matter what, which makes Elise happy. But before heading out, Rent insists on clearing the orphanage basement first. She follows him there, so Rent gives her a short sword for protection. Just then, a group of possessed rats pop up, and they realize that this is the monsters. The rat's leader jumps at him, and Rent easily bats it away, but it charges again and bites his hand before he flings it off. Suddenly, the rat's body glows purple, and the next thing they know, the rat is following Rent's orders like a loyal pet. That night, Rent takes the rat to meet Lorraine, and she examines it with fascination. She explains that vampires can create and control familiars, something she doesn't expect from his current ghast form. When Rent asks if he can keep it, she agrees but demands that the rat pay rent, not in the form of money, but by letting Lorraine run tests on it. It suddenly nibbles her finger, which reminds Lorraine of Rent, so she asks Rent to give it a name. Rent names it Blackie due to its color, but Lorraine reminds him of Martin Luther King's dream, so she suggests naming it Adele, which the rat is happy with. That night, Rent spends his time in his room, missing being able to sleep. Just then, Lorraine invites him to dinner, and it surprises him that she cooks. She talks about the Terrasque swamp, the only place nearby where dragon blood flowers grow, and the place she knows Rent will be heading. When Rent says he plans to go alone, she warns him that the place is poisonous, but he feels confident that his undead body is poison-resistant. She then adds that a dangerous wyvern-like creature called a Terrasque lives there, but he says he won't fight it, and will use holy water to stop it. As they eat, Rent compliments the meal, shocked that he can actually taste it. Lorraine is happy with the compliment and reveals her secret ingredient, which is a drop of her own blood. The next day, using a carriage, Rent and Ratatouille go to Terrasque Swamp. There, he patrols the area until a group of goblin archers ambushes him. After deflecting their arrows, he swiftly cuts them down and defeats them. He asks if Edel is going to help, and the little jit simply shrugs. Suddenly, a fragile bridge collapses beneath him, and he's pissed that Edel just jumped it to save himself, leaving him slumped. Just then, a monstrous fish lunges at him. Edel snacks idly as Rent wrestles with the creature in a fierce underwater battle. After Rent defeats it, he lifts Edel up and wonders if all vampires' pets are this much of a lazy bum. Meanwhile, Sheila visits Lorraine, asking why Rent is so determined to reach Mithril class. To Shell's surprise, Lorraine admits she also doesn't know and doesn't want to pry into his past. When Sheila worries about him facing the Terrasque, Lorraine assures her that Rent always finds a way to overcome danger. Back with Rent, he is getting chased down by a Terrasque and gets cornered to a cliff. With no escape, he fights head-on but struggles to pierce its armor-like hide. Just then, Edel charges toward the beast, flies straight into its mouth, and releases a surge of divine energy. To Rent's surprise, the beast pukes the rat back out, and that gives Rent an idea. He channels divinity through his sword and decapitates the monster in one decisive strike, now knowing the monster's weakness. Then, he collects the creature's remains and ventures deeper into the forest, where he stumbles upon the dragonblood flowers. But before he can harvest them, a handsome elf pops up from the shadows to confront him. When Rent asks if he's alone, the elf claims that he is, but Rent points out that the Terrasque swamp isn't the kind of place anyone normal would wander through solo. That's where the man explains he carries a magic item that neutralizes poison and holy water, strong enough to repel a Terrasque. He admits he's searching for dragonblood flowers and asks if Rent would be willing to share some. Rent agrees, and while they both gather the dragonblood flowers, the man explains that his mistress wants the blossoms themselves. When Rent asks if the man's mistress is gravely ill, the man confirms it and expresses his devotion to stay by her side. He also mentions that he's seeking someone who can bring dragonblood flowers regularly, and asks Rent if he's an adventurer. Rent introduces himself as a bronze-class adventurer, which surprises the man with how powerful he is for his class, and the man tells Rent that he's willing to hire him if the pay and working terms suit him. When Rent agrees, the elf introduces himself as Isaac and promises to present him to his mistress once they make contract arrangements. After leaving the swamp, Rent returns to the guild hall to meet Sheila and asks her for a butcher to harvest the Terrasque body. Sheila gets excited for a second, and Rent has to remind her to stay quiet to avoid people's attention to Rent. Then she takes Rent to meet Dario, a butcher, and they all put on poison masks before Rent pulls the Terrasque body out of the bag. Dario is impressed by how fresh the corpse is and explains that the usual way to defeat a Terrasque involves attacking from outside its poison range, which typically leaves the shell damaged. However, seen from its wounds, Dario knows that Rent defeated it with a single strike, so he tells Rent that the quartz will be even more profitable for him. After leaving the butcher's shop, Rent thanks Sheila for her help, and she tells him he's gotten stronger, considering that he is now capable of taking down a Terrasque alone, which Sheila suspects that Rent might already be on the level of a silver-class adventurer. However, when Sheila leaves him by himself, Rent is stuck with his own doubts, telling himself that the real him is weak, and the reason he's that strong is because of his undead body, and not his skill. The next day, he returns to the orphanage and accidentally breaks the door knocker again. As he repairs it, Elise approaches, and he tells her the mission is complete, which surprises her. Then, when he hands over the dragonblood flower, Elise and the two adventurers with her, Umberto the healer and Norman the herbalist, praise how well prepared it is. Norman assures them he can make the medicine to cure the disease. Rent asks if they need more dragonblood flowers, and when they say yes, he gives them all he gathered, telling them to put it to good use rather than paying him like a good Samaritan. Afterward, Elise gives him an official document confirming he completed the job, and thanks him for saving her from having to become an adventurer just to rescue Lillian. When Rent asks if she still wants to pursue adventuring, Elise says she hopes to be an adventurer like him, someone who helps people in need. Then, Edel climbs back onto Rent's shoulder, and he tells Elise that Edel's rat homies, who are in the basement, will protect the orphanage from the monsters, and Elise wishes she could tame monsters like Rent someday. He tells her that if she wants to be an adventurer, she should start early and offers to train her when he has time. Elise admits it would be difficult since she lacks money for a sword or magic lessons, but Rent says it's fine, as he has a friend with plenty of free time who could help. Elise refuses, not wanting to rely on him too much, but hearing that, Rent offers to lend her the money for training, and she can repay him once she starts earning. She agrees, promising to repay him with interest, and they seal the deal with a handshake. That evening, Rent tells Lorraine everything about his talk with Elise, and Lorraine feels offended that he referred to her as someone lazy, and warns him to be more careful with his words around women. She tries to bring up a memory of Rent and women from years ago, but Rent pretends to play dumb, which irritates her. She threatens to send him off to a Michael Jackson concert, and out of fear, Rent showcases his silver tongue for women and rizzes up Lorraine, calling her a beauty equivalent to a non-corrupted Mia Khalifa.
Damn.
However, Lorraine accuses him of using the same line to clap different chicks, but Rent insists that only her ears have heard those words, which makes Lorraine blush and hide in the other room, secretly wanting to ride Rent's joystick. The next day, Rent meets Sheila at the Guildhall, and she tells him that the Lator household specifically requested him for a job. When Rent checks the request form, he realizes it's from Isaac. Sheila explains that the Lator family isn't noble, but is one of the oldest and most influential houses in Malp. She warns him that past guildmasters were told never to offend the Lators, and that refusing their request would result in banning him from the city. She also worries that, due to Rent being an undead, he will be hunted down by them, but Rent assures Sheila that he will be fine after seeing Isaac not caring about his appearance. So Rent accepts the job and decides to visit them. Later, when Rent arrives at the Lator estate, he notices that he is facing a maze in the entrance. The guard tells him that it is a tricky maze and that those who manage to reach the mansion receive a special magic item from the head of the household. When Rent asks for advice, the guard cryptically replies that the sun won't help him. Rent then enters the maze, hopeful that he can get through this and get his reward. But after wandering the place for hours, even using his magical map, he realizes that he is lost, and he now knows what it feels like to be Zorro. While he continues around the maze, Rent comes across a witch wearing a large hat who suggests that he should give up. When Rent refuses, the witch tells him that he still has a long way to go, so he should take a break and join her for a little tea party. Curious and exhausted, Rent accepts her offer and decides to rest for a moment. While she pours the tea, Rent notices that she didn't put tea leaves inside the teapot, but she informs him that what she's holding is a magical teapot that can transform ordinary hot water into perfectly brewed tea. She explains that the teapot can recreate the flavor of any tea it has ever brewed, no matter how long ago. Intrigued, Rent asks where it came from, and she explains that there are two kinds of magic items. She says that one is discovered in labyrinths, and the other is created by artisans who attempt to replicate them. She tells him the teapot was found in a labyrinth 200 years ago, and is valued at nearly 300 platinum coins. Rent is bamboozled hearing that, knowing that one platinum coin can feed a lifetime, and he realizes that the Lators are so rich. Elon Musk would be jealous. The girl calmly says that it's worth every penny, as adventurers risk their lives in the labyrinths to retrieve treasures like it. When Rent finally tastes the tea, he's amazed by how good it is. The girl notices his mask transforming and asks if it's a magic item. When he confirms it, she presses further, asking where he got it from. He tells her that he got it from the market, but doesn't say that he got it for cheap. Being interested, she immediately asks if he would sell it to her. Rent quickly realizes that her interest stems from the Lator family's reputation for collecting magical artifacts. The offer tempts him, knowing he could be filthy rich, but he knows giving up the mask would expose his undead face and destroy his secret, so he politely declines her offer and thanks her for the tea. Then, as he's about to continue his journey, the witch gives him a cryptic hint about the maze, which is to avoid looking at the sun. Rent is surprised since this is the second time someone has mentioned the same warning. Then, on his walk, out of curiosity, he stares directly at the sun, but suddenly, it disappears. He realizes something is off, so he tosses a rock toward where the sun should be and watches it vanish. Realizing the maze is laced with an active teleportation spell, he tests a few more spots and confirms he's been looping through the same sections all along. With this newfound knowledge, Rent continues his journey, and after a few hours, he manages to find the mansion just as the sun goes down. There the witch greets him again, this time introducing herself as Laura Lator, the head of the Lator household. He introduces himself formally and asks for his reward for passing the maze's challenge. Laura smiles and tells him to choose any magic item from their collection. Rent asks for the one that created the maze itself, which Laura refuses to give, but he tells her that he is joking. Laura explains that while human-made magic tools are more stable, humans can only craft simple ones, like the lights switching on around them. Then, in the basement where the artifacts are, Laura explains that every magic item holds a unique power, and when Rent asks why she collects them, she admits that it's pure obsession, as she's fascinated by their mysteries. She then shows him a magic artifact in the form of a tiny, remote-controlled airship that looks like something you buy for the cousin you hate. Rent assumes it's a toy, but when Laura tells him to focus his magic into it, the device projects vivid images directly into his mind, acting like a magical drone. Deeper in the vault, Rent inspects other relics and accidentally places his hand on one. In that moment, Laura and Isaac panic, finding the off switch, as the item drains Rent's mana and awakens a massive golem that looks like a Gundam. The creature lunges at them, forcing Rent to dodge its crushing blows. Laura warns Rent that the golem can't be defeated by brute force, but he tells her that he never planned to beat it head-on. As he dodges another heavy strike, he slices off its arm with precision. He recalls Lorraine's lesson about golems and how the older models could be stopped by altering the inscription on their foreheads. But when Rent looks for it, there's none, as the newer ones, like the one they are facing, don't have that feature and must either be shut down manually or destroyed. Just as Rent prepares to unleash his Mana Spirit Fusion technique, Laura commands the golem to halt, and the golem stops, and Isaac apologizes for the delay to them. Laura then asks Rent which item Rent wants as his reward, and he says that he wants to keep looking. They move to another section showcasing items extracted from monsters, and one vial immediately draws Rent's attention, as it makes his undead instincts pulse. Laura explains that it contains vampire blood, rumored to transform anyone who drinks it into a vampire. However, she clarifies that it's mostly only rumors, as most people who have tried it either died or started twerking until their cheeks fall off. After thinking it through, Rent decides to take the remote-controlled airship instead and shows it to Lorraine and uses it to look at her melons, saying that it's fun. He then explains his new arrangement with the Lators, where he now has to gather the dragon blood flowers for them and get paid afterward. However, he reveals that Isaac also gave him the vial of vampire blood, and Lorraine warns him that drinking it could lead to disaster, exactly like what Laura told him, and even suggests that he shouldn't even think about drinking it. Deep down, while Lorraine wishes that Rent would stay with her as an undead forever, she knows Rent's heart still burns with ambition to evolve beyond what he is and one day achieve the rank of mithril-class adventurer. She suddenly remembers her conversation with Sheila about Rent, and while he asks what they talked about, Lorraine refuses to say, forcing Rent to sweet-talk her first to confess. Rent wonders what it is, as he always thinks that Lorraine knows everything about him, even to the inches he's carrying. But then, Lorraine asks him why he wants to become a mithril-class adventurer in the first place. Her question catches him off guard, and he just realizes that he's never told her. She explains that all these years, she never asked because he once told her it was an unspoken rule among adventurers, not to pry into each other's pasts. Then, Rent takes his seat on the couch and begins to share the truth. He says that his goal to become a mithril-class adventurer isn't just to grow stronger, but it's to become someone capable of preventing tragedies before they happen. He looks back on her past in the village of Hathala, where his father handled all the errands outside the village. On the day his parents took him beyond the village for the first time, he met a cheerful girl named Jinlin, who sat with him in a carriage. Knowing he wants to be an adventurer, Jinlin told him he needed to be brave and not a massive wussy. She then shared her dream of exploring the world and even promised to protect him if he followed her. But then, tragedy struck on their way home. Their carriage was ambushed, and with her dying breath, Jinlin's grandmother urged them to run away. Rent remembers the horror of seeing his parents lying in a pool of blood, and the monstrous wolf towering over them with murderous intent. Just as the beast turned its gaze toward him, Jinlin grabbed his hand and pulled him into the forest. They ran until they believed that they were safe, but the beast was always there close to them, and Rent knew that the beast was toying with them. Suddenly, it jumped at Rent, and Jinlin shoved him aside, taking the hit herself. As Rent knelt beside her bleeding form, Jinlin reminded him of her promise to protect him and told him to grow stronger no matter what. Then, as the beast was about to slash him, an adventurer popped up, saving him. He battled a monster in a fierce battle, and after a long struggle, the adventurer unleashed a devastating blow that forced the creature to flee. When the fight ended, the adventurer tried to comfort Rent, but Rent blamed the adventurer for not getting there earlier, and the adventurer could only apologize for his mistakes. Later, after burying everyone, the adventurer found Rent training alone with a wooden sword beneath a tree. Rent asked him how to become an adventurer, and he told Rent that he should train from now on, learning everything from swordsmanship to magic, and even writing and reading, just so he could survive. Rent asked if that would guarantee his strength, but the man said it depended entirely on his effort and how much he wanted to become great. The man then introduced himself as Wilfried, a mithril-class adventurer, and he told Rent that when he became an adventurer, he should meet him. Back in the present, Lorraine quietly observes that Rent's compassion must have come from Wilfried's influence. Rent agrees, saying that Wilfried's words gave him the will to live again. He vows to become a mithril-class adventurer and one day slay the wolf that destroyed his family. But when he looks at the vial of vampire's blood, Rent admits that he's afraid of dying, but refuses to stand down at what could be his key to the future. Rent asks Lorraine to burn him to ashes if he loses control, and Lorraine agrees. while quietly praying for his safety. He drinks the vampire blood from the vial, and instantly, his body starts tweaking violently. Pain tears through him as he collapses, vomiting uncontrollably. Inside his mind, he feels his body breaking apart and reforming into something else. His soul panics, begging not to turn into one of those ugly monsters, but Lorraine holds him tightly, whispering to him to remember his dream. Her voice cuts through his pain, and his body begins to glow with a pure white light that fills the entire room. Some days later, Clope is forging a sword while telling his wife that he's crafting another one for Rent, because he has once again reached a new level of strength. Meanwhile, Elias trains in the orphanage, swinging a broom like a sword, when Lillian walks in to thank her for helping save her life. Elsewhere, Rise, Laura, and Reena arrive at the guild hall, where Sheila excitedly informs them that several new quests are available. As they argue over which one to take, Sheila reminds them to be cautious inside the labyrinth. Then, in a dream world, Rent wakes up, and for the first time since becoming undead, he feels the warmth of sleep and peace. Memories of his struggles and growth as a cold, lifeless monster flash before him, and when he wakes, Lorraine is right there beside him. She explains the various types of vampires and congratulates him on his evolution. When Rent looks down at himself, he's astonished that his body appears human again. She demands that he take off his shirt, and when he does, Lorraine notices a pair of black wings on his back. He asks Lorraine what he's become, and she admits she doesn't know, only that he seems to be a lesser form of vampire, but has wings which other vampires don't have. Promising to study his condition later, Lorraine asks him to show his teeth, and when he opens it, she sees fangs. Then she asks to see his eyes, and as she predicted, they are now red. Rent is worried that she will be hunted down, but Lorraine assures him that he will be fine. Then she holds his face close to hers, and after everything they have gone through, Lorraine welcomes him back home. If you watched this anime recap until the end, comment down below Zombie Willy. And if you love anime recaps like this, watch this video.